Stade Francais v Stormers. 5 takeaways from a chaotic classic in Paris. Following the Stormers' dramatic 24-20 win over Stade Francais in Paris, here are 5 takeaways from the Investec Champions Cup clash. It was a dramatic affair in Paris filled with loads of cards and a spirited performance from the home side who flew out the blocks early on. It looked as though Stade Francais had done their homework and the hosts certainly had the Stormers rattled in the first period. The key element is that Stade Francais could never get away from the Stormers who dug deep to stay in the match. Ultimately it was the Capetonian scrum mixed with some much-needed impetus from the bench that saved the game. There was absolute chaos with 13 men reduced to 12 with uncontested scrums, including a penalty against Stade Francais for fielding too many players. Even then it was not a done deal as the hosts pushed towards the Stormers' line with the clock in the red, but a magical defensive set was enough to secure the victory, with skipper Dion Fourie aptly making the winning steal. It was a pure Investec Champions Cup classic. Stormers host playoff. The last 6 weeks has been tremendous for the Stormers, beginning with a fortuitous win over La Rochelle at home following a loss to Leicester Tigers. This victory is 5 on the trot in all competitions and crucially 1 in the North. Finally, as a result, the team has earned a home playoff which is absolutely crucial considering their impressive record in Cape Town. Very few have gone to their home and left with a win in the last couple of seasons, and the Stormers will be delighted to be welcoming their next rival to DHL Stadium in the round of 16. For John Dobson, it is job done in that regard, and the coach can now return to Cape Town and shift attention back to the United Rugby Championship. Scrum spares Stormers blushes. Whilst the win and the home playoff has been secured, it cannot cover some concerning cracks that showed. In the end, it was a monstrous scrum performance that won the game. Late in the game, only meters out from the hosts' line, the Stormers won a scrum penalty and packed down again and again, winning a penalty each time. This in turn resulted in 2 yellow cards for Stade Francais and uncontested scrums. Chaos ensued as referee Luc Pierce did his best to manage the passionate players and the rare situation. The hosts were down to 13 but were required to forfeit another player due to the uncontested scrums. This did not happen as Stade Francais played the very next phase of play with 13 men and ended up conceding a penalty. In the end, the Stormers managed to score through Manny Libok in his 50th game for the club and ran away with a nerve-wracking victory. Not quite saved by the bell but saved by the scrum. Fundamentals a concern in the North for Stormers. Looking ahead, if the Stormers are to win this prestigious tournament, they have to be able to play in the northern conditions as South African teams cannot host a semi-final. Their form in the North has been poor with 4 losses from 4 in those conditions, but finally, this result breaks that trend. However, as mentioned, it was far from comfortable with some serious things to address. Northern conditions don't allow for the free-flowing rugby typical to the Stormers and place a bigger emphasis on fundamentals which the side did not get right. From kick receipts to exits to line-outs, the Stormers have a lot of work to do. The team needs to tighten up on all those facets whilst also deciding when is the right to play with ball in hand or not, with the Stormers guilty of overplaying on a couple of occasions. Stade Francais horror tournament ends. Meanwhile, for tonight's hosts, this chaotic clash ends what has been a terrible tournament for them as they end the competition without a win. The hosts finished the Champions Cup with an underwhelming points difference of -66, which is a huge disappointment. However, it is not all lost as the side showed tremendous character and tactical nous against the Stormers, in a game that definitely could have gone their way on a different day. There is another upside with Stade Francais sitting in 3rd place on the top 14 table, and without the added distraction of European competition they can now focus solely on their league charge.